And we're live. Okay. Just going to double check some stuff real quick. Yeah, there we go. Boom. Sweet. Okay, what's happening, people? We are currently live with Ashley Speros. I always want to call you Ashley Teakin, but Speros is the name now. She's a registered occupational therapist, certified natural health professional, and certified Lyme specialist. Today, we're going to talk about what the freaking heck is wrong with Western medicine, and just get a little bit more of her story and how we can help people in the times that we are in. Kenneth is in the chat. What's up, Kenneth? Ashley, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's an honor to have you on. So Ashley and I have known each other for 20 years.
Isn't that crazy? It's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
wild. Probably longer than 20 years.
Pretty close.
Oh, dude, I'm so old. We're so old. Like getting into the 30 years, like at 30 years old, I was like, I'm invincible. The next day, my back literally went out. And I think that I have a better understanding of why that happened now. Why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown real quick? So you're occupational therapist by like profession, like that's what you started at, right?
Yep.
And then you kind of sort of moved into more of the crunchy, hippie, granola era or area of your life. What got you into occupational therapy? Let's start there.
Occupational therapy, I've always wanted to be in the health field growing up. And then I just kind of landed on it randomly, to be honest. I didn't do a lot of research into it. I knew what physical therapy was, but physical therapy at the time felt a little boring to me. Like you see this person for a shoulder and it's the same protocol. Where occupational therapy is a little bit like putting pieces of the puzzle together. You can have, for example, two kids with the same diagnosis, but you're doing completely different things with them. So yeah, I just like randomly found it and I didn't shadow anyone or anything. I'm just like, sure, this sounds good. And I kind of jumped in and went for it. So
Is it kind of like, is occupational therapy kind of one of those things like, nursing and being a doctor and then randomly like physician's assistants showed up? You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. No.
No, it was already there.
It was already there for quite a while. I always kind of joke around that it's kind of a really annoying profession because we can do so much. We overlap with so many other professions. Like we can do some of what PT does, we can do some of what speech therapy does, we do some of what behavior therapy does. So it makes it really hard for people to actually understand what we do because we're annoying and we can kind of validate most things.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's cool. What brought you into like the holistic wellness space? So did something happen to you or did you just kind of see things like falling apart? What was the deal with that?
I would say just as I grew with fitness throughout college, I just started realizing that's like different products that was more like household and like personal care products were full of yucky ingredients. So I started that switch around then. But then when I had my first kid, that really made me deep dive into like making sure food is clean and all that type of stuff. And then the next level, like what really got me down all the rabbit holes and all the crunchiness was definitely COVID, was an eye opener. I just totally disagreed with a lot that was going on in COVID and how Western medicine approached that. It was not something that was with my value system. And that made me deep dive a lot of Western medicine type things too, and really opened my eyes to some things that I just did not agree with. So that pushed me more to this natural health and root cause healing perspective on things.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because like as you grow up, you're kind of like programmed to believe that the doctors just know what they're talking about just because they are doctors. And to a degree, they absolutely do, right? Like it's Western medicine does a really good job at like acute problems. Like, how do I solve this issue right now for this person? But it's never been like a root cause thing. I remember going to a doctor when I was younger and then asking them because they wanted to give me like antidepressants or whatever. And I think I was like 17 years old. And I had asked, like, isn't there anything natural that we can do? And the doctor was like, no. I was like, wait, what? I'm like, because I've always been of the perspective that if something is broken, it broke somehow, which means that it can be fixed somehow. I remember even thinking that when I was 17 years old, like there's just like way more to this story than they would like to admit or than they know.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I see. I still see, and I was seeing that pushed me towards this new career in natural health too, because as an occupational therapist, I see a lot of kids in what I do right now. Um, and I sort of feel like a band-aid for a lot of it because
Mm.
there's so many foundational things that these kids need support in that just coming to OT a couple times a week, even if I'm doing some parent coaching with that, they need all these other changes. They need to clean up their diet. They need to get clean environment, get clean ingredients surrounded by that. There's just so much. So that also kind of drove me towards where I'm at and has me frustrated with some of the aspects of Western medicine. But I do agree with what you said. There's a time and a place for it for sure.
Mhm.
I really like Dr. Patrick Flynn. Do you know who that is?
I feel like
He
maybe.
created the Wellness Way Studios. He's a chiropractor. He has a book and stuff.
Okay.
They're like crunchy hippie type system of chiropractors that work on a
Okay.
lot of root cause type stuff. Anyways, I really like how he put it. He makes an analogy of like the person being a house, and if the house is on fire, you call the firefighters first. And the firefighters are our Western modern medicine, like they're putting out
Mm,
the fire. But once the fire's out, you call them the carpenters next, and that's like the root cause healing type approach, the
mm,
natural health supports that you put in place. And you wouldn't want to call the carpenters in to put out the fire because they don't know how to do that, or they wouldn't do it as well. And you wouldn't want to keep the firefighters there to rebuild the house because that's not their area of expertise either. So I really agree with that. Like there's a time and a place. I just think our society overutilizes the firefighters and underutilizes the carpenters. So,
yeah, 100%. And I feel like it's slowly starting to fizzle out, but it was such that like our parents' generation was so brainwashed. I mean, in so many ways, right? Like in terms of like the American dream, how you handle your finances, getting a job, all these things. But especially when it comes to like how you handle chronic illness, or like they don't even look at some of this stuff as chronic illness, right? Like because me personally, I would look at somebody with with elevated blood pressure and be like, no, you're chronically ill. Like there's something wrong here every single day for the majority of your adult life. That's a chronic illness to me. What do you think?
yeah, no, for sure. And that's the other piece is like, yeah, if you have elevated blood pressure, that's a symptom your body is giving off that something's not right. So, why is that symptom happening? You got to find the why behind it. And
Right.
that's where you have to approach it. Where, another frustration with Western medicine that I have had is you have all these specialists and they're great at what they do and they're super knowledgeable, but they don't always talk to each other. And that's
Yeah.
like a global, or there's some out there that do. So I don't want to say like this is every single facility does it this way in Western
Yeah.
medicine. No, but for the majority, this is what I've seen. You have the cardiologist, which focuses on the heart, but then they're not necessarily talking very much to the neurologist and to like all these specialists because they think of them all as just separate body systems,
Yeah.
which they are, but they're all intermixed too. So they're that important piece of root cause healing really takes every single part of the body into play to find where that red flag is that's first coming up to address it at the root.
Yeah, so as an OT, like when you're working with kids, you mentioned that that's like the majority of what you do right now, and that there's a lot of foundational things that they should work on. What are the things that you're like mostly seeing in practice, occupational therapy, and like how does that kind of lead you to think that there are like foundational things that should be started at home?
Yeah, lots of behaviors. OT, especially, I work in rural healthcare, so we don't have a ton of resources like a city does. So we don't have a ton of like behavioral therapists and things like that. So
Mm,
often OT is where all these docs are sending kiddos, even if it's not
wow.
necessarily like an OT related issue. Again, we're annoying because we can kind of make it into one because OT can validate a lot.
So you have to kind of work as like an actual therapist too sometimes?
I mean, we can do mental health too. So there's like that part of it, that's
Okay.
why we're annoying.
Yeah.
But
That's interesting.
so like lots of behaviors and like where OT traditionally stemmed from with helping behaviors was specific sensory things causing the behavior. Are they
Mm.
overstimulated or understimulated by light, touch, sound, not understanding where their body is in space? And is that what's triggering the behavior? That was traditional OT.
Okay.
Now we get all sorts of reasons for behaviors. Parents don't know how to parent a lot anymore. That's a hard one. It's just changed how we probably grew up being parented to parents now. It's a lot different. So
Yeah.
there's that. The food sucks now. The water sucks. There's way more technology, which sucks. I mean, it's great at times, but it just is not good for development and for kids. So a lot of those different things. So things that I'm seeing, especially now that I'm taking these courses in root cause healing, it's like I feel like every single kid I see should be artificial dye free for at least 30 days before they come to OT. I feel like they should not be on screens before
Yeah.
they come to OT. And even those two things alone, see how different they are before they get sent to OT.
Yeah, do you see a lot of actual change with that stuff? Because I know with my own son, right, like, I definitely see a difference when I'm like, "Okay, there's no switch or there's no TV," right? And now I've, like, implemented this thing at my house where, like, "Okay, you wanna watch TV, you gotta do 20 squats and 20 push-ups before, like, we actually get it. Because if you're gonna do something bad for you, you gotta do something good first," right? And trying to, like, instill that in his brain, and I know that I fall short for sure, as I'm sure so many people that try to live like we do. But yeah, trying to instill in his brain that anything that like comes with instant gratification is going to have like problems down the road. So yeah, how much of a difference do you actually see in practice with like people taking out dyes or cleaning up the environment?
So in practice, the hard part is that so many don't actually do any of those things, even if I
Yeah,
recommend it.
I can
So,
see that.
but I can speak to my own kids too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty strict on screens. My kids aren't allowed to even own iPads or tablets or anything like that. We don't watch TV during the week because by the time we get home, they shouldn't be having it a couple hours before bed, anyways. So it's
Right.
really just the weekend most of the time. And their behaviors are completely different on days where I say no TV at all. There's less fighting, things like that.
Mhm.
On days they have TV, because I keep it away from bedtime, it's usually early in the day or midday on the weekends. That whole afternoon tends to be a lot worse behavior wise for them.
Dude,
Um,
you're an abusive parent. Did you know that?
I always tell them, you'll see when you're older, it's nothing I expect you to understand while you're little.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it is crazy that that's like the expectation now, right? Like you mentioned that we are parented so much different than kids are nowadays, and I'm like, I'm almost mind blown sometimes, and I'm like, there's this meme of this guy where he's like kids traveling now, and you've probably seen it where like I think his name is Dude Dad on Instagram, but it's like a video where he has like a screen attached to the back of the seat head in the car, and then he's got one in his hand, and then the mom is bringing like a big like screen TV into the car with like with a portable battery or whatever. And then it's like, so that's how they need to be stimulated for the entire car ride. Where like we were just like, and he has his head against the window watching one dot of water like racing another one, and then it wins. He's like, oh
yeah.
yeah, it's just so much different. And then like I find myself, it's hard not to be this way, but being judgmental of like parents that bring tablets or like sedate their kids with phones at dinner and stuff because they just don't want to do the thing that parents are supposed to do, which is like be the bad guy.
Absolutely. Oh, that's such a pet peeve, and I agree. I try not to judge so hard. It's tricky, but
Yeah.
also there's a level where our society has brainwashed us in that way too. That says it's not a big deal, and it is like the normal thing to do. So
Mhm.
that's the aspect where I'm coming from. If parents knew, like totally knew and understood that this is more detrimental to your child, I do wonder if we would see that start to change. Like if a parent was asked while they're sitting down at dinner in a restaurant, do you realize that you are frying your child's brain right now and socially making him or her worse? Would
Yeah.
they let them keep watching? Maybe some would, but I feel like others, if they really understood the impact, would make different choices.
Yeah, I see like, everyone has their struggles with their own kids, and I think that a lot of it does stem from screens at home and things of that nature. I won't get too deep into the conspiracy stuff there, right? but like I think a lot of it does stem from home in terms of the screens and almost nothing else, right? Like the food absolutely has like issues with it, but I think that the screens are really specifically a huge player because of like different video games that kids are playing, the early introduction to like violence, the early introduction to like all these different concepts that we were not aware of as kids that now they're getting. And I see like so often, like, Caden plays, at least at my house, video games like once in a blue moon. I actually made them watch me throw their Switch away a week and a half ago. So I like took it and I threw it
Who's
in the
abusive now?
That's me. I'm him. I will gladly wear that badge of honor there. But so I made them watch me do that to like prove a point, right? And so they think that their Switch is gone. But anyways, something that I've really like kind of come to like learn or realize is that I like watch other kids be naughty like in public, and our kids just are not like that generally. And then when I like actually talk to those parents, and it's not like we're like bringing up like, hey, is your kid naughty because they like play video games? It's like
Right.
when I talk to their parents, it's like, yeah, they have all these video game systems or they have a bunch of screen time, at home. And also not necessarily to the fault of parents either, because parents are like super busy nowadays, right? But I think that there is a level of laziness that is just like inherent. Like some people like don't actually want to be parents. They're just trying to live up to that. Like I was supposed to have kids.
Right. Oh, there's so much that goes into this. Like, this is such a rabbit hole we could go down. But I feel like even just like how our society has changed the family structure, and like I'm far from a feminist. I wish I got to stay home and cook all day. But seriously, the stress that moms and dads are under, I'm going to speak more towards moms though. Like I totally understand like the biblical traditional household structure where like the man does go work and the woman does the work at home and with the kids. And now women are expected to work or have to because everything's so freaking expensive.
Yeah.
And then also take care of all of the kids and also take care of all the housework. And don't get me wrong, like men help out. My husband helps with all sorts of things, but it's just driving this stress, constant stimulation, which is overstressing parents.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's so much more tempting to say like, you're just going to watch a movie because I'm freaking tired.
Yeah, dude. I mean, parents are wrestling. Like we'll move on for sure after this, but like parents are wrestling with so much, like not just that, but like the lack of like having gender identity, like between male and female, right? Like this is what males have traditionally done for years. And this is what women have done traditionally for years. And then telling men like, you have to help with the laundry and the dishes or you're a toxic masculine guy when you've been working for fucking 14 hours in a day, doing construction. Like I literally, there's, Tristan sitting here, he could like attest this. If I'm asked to do laundry, I'm like, no. Unless it's absolutely necessary that I help with like, whatever, like, cause my fiance does work super hard herself. So I'm not going to like sit here and be like, I'm Mr. Misogynist tough guy where I never do
right.
That's definitely not the case. But, but it is such that like now women are looked down upon too, if they're being like, if they just do want to be a stay-at-home mom because they're supposed to be a productive member of society when like one of the most productive things that you could do is literally just be a mom. Right. Like it's like the hardest job on earth.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Being a dad's pretty fucking easy, to be real. Like you just have to like be somewhat masculine, like be the bad guy most times, and that does suck. That comes with its own like emotional turmoil. But then at the end of the day, your kids think you're a superhero, and you also like men like to play. So like it's like you can go out and play, and that's part of your job. Like you get to have fun.
Yeah.
Like my job is literally to have fun with my kids and then to like lay the smack down when I have to.
Throw out the switches.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That was, before we move on though, there was one thing I was going to say. Like, I totally agree when you were talking about like the content of like the videos and the video games, but not even content wise. I have done so much. This is like the OT hat, so much research into this, but even, how young kids are starting in front of screens. And then even at that age, the content like Cocomelon lights up a toddler's brain, like cocaine lights up an adult brain. Like it's insane. So it's this constant dopamine hits. It doesn't even matter if it's not violent things. And if it's TV that they think is educational, it's continuing to light up those addictive pathways with that dopamine release, where they
Yeah.
are getting that instant gratification constantly. So, like, one of the things I have to share with families when I'm educating on dropping screens or at least significantly reducing is it's going to get worse before it gets better because you
Yeah.
built these habits. They've learned now, they've had all these dopamine hits, and now their body has to readjust and find some other ways to get dopamine, and it's not going to be as instant and as easy for them. So I
Dude, yeah.
expect behaviors to kind of skyrocket for a couple of weeks at least before they go down.
Yeah, 100%. And probably if you got an organic acids test on like all these kids, their dopamine is probably non-existent in their urine. You
Yeah.
know, like absolutely just like torched. But moving on from that, so like getting into like actually being a like natural practitioner now. What was like, I know you mentioned COVID, right? Was like kind of the thing where you like started to deep dive a little bit more. But what like made the motivation from COVID to like start deep diving? And then from the deep dive, like you're, I don't know, how many years are out are we from? I feel like it was yesterday that that happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually like what, 6 years since
Yeah,
the,
6 years. So
yeah.
then what was like the transition from like, okay, I've learned all this stuff. Now I want to actually like help put it into practice and help other people.
I don't think it was like one specific thing. I mean, just my research that I've done with everything after COVID was the driving force where I just can't do full time in Western medicine forever because it just doesn't fit my value system. So that's not good for my mental health either to have to
Right.
go. Don't get me wrong, I love my job as an OT, still work as an OT part of the time, but to do that 40 plus hours a week for the rest of my life. And then, the facility that I'm at, I love the people there and I love it too, but I also don't align with some of the values of that. And that's a little frustrating to go to work and realize that they're pushing XYZ Western medicine stuff. And I'd like have to keep my mouth shut because I would never go against what they're advertising, but I also
Yeah.
like just totally full heartedly disagree with it. So
Yeah.
that pushed me into what else can I do? And this I'm working on becoming a traditional naturopath. Um, so that route of things.
So you're
And
going to
then,
go back to school?
well, that's all these. So right now I'm a certified natural health professional. I'm almost done with a certification to be a certified holistic health practitioner.
Wow.
And then after that, I can take a certification to be a traditional naturopath. So by December, I should be a certified traditional naturopath.
Wow, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
So, and then honestly, just like a God thing, too, with it all, a lot of things went wrong about 6 months before I really made the choice to go back to school and pursue this career. And everything that went wrong ended up leading to all these things that went right. So, like, we own rental properties, one completely burned down, but that ended up, we had like really great insurance, and that insurance. So we actually like profited off of the fire, which allowed me to pay for schooling to go back and do this kind of thing. And then at the
Wow.
time I started schooling 3 weeks postpartum with my youngest. And he was a little fussy. So I was bringing him into the chiropractor to get some adjustments. And the chiropractor I went to college with, and he's like, hey, I'm going to build out this space and I'll hold it for you if you become like a natural health person. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. So like just all these things, like if my baby wouldn't have been fussy and I wouldn't have gone to the chiropractor, I wouldn't have like jumped full force because there was just a lot that went wrong to make it all go right. So
Yeah, that's sweet. I feel like, man, dude, I feel like God has just been like especially in the healing world, like it's like he's such a mover because he always kind of gives you the position or the place that you need to be. You just have to be willing to like receive it, right? So it's like kind of
absolutely.
divine intervention or intuition, however you want to say it. But like he gives you the tools, he gives you the recipe, and then it's up to you to like kind of utilize and put it all together. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of time, like I like to say this, like, and you tell me if you agree. God literally gave us all the pieces to the puzzle, right? Like everything is here on earth that we need in order to like fix your issue. It's up to you whether you want to take the easy route or the hard route.
I completely agree. And I often I get in my head and I think about this, but I think about the role that like God gave us free will and how that's played into this. And like pretty much everything man tries to do to one up God, it ends up just sucking for us. Like We
Yeah.
try to make food better and quicker. How's that working out for us? Like, it sucks. We try to get technology. How's that working out for us? It's frying our brains. We suck. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so curious how terrible the world will be with AI. And I use AI sometimes, but man, it's kind of
Yeah.
scary to think about some of the highest professions in the world, like doctors, are probably learning a lot from just AI right now. Like, it's just
Right.
going to backfire. So using the tools that God gave us when the earth like was first created, I
Yeah.
feel like that's where we get the best bang for our buck.
Dude, 100%. And so one of the things that I struggle with the most recently when it comes to like the health space is the idea of calories, right? Like it's something that like, and you know this because I've coached you here and there, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, from the beginning, like when I first started my coaching career, I was very much into like the calories in versus calories out. But what I feel kind of like is happening right now is that there's a shift that calories are basically the only thing that matter, right? Because like everybody like kind of equates like body composition and health to where your body composition is at and how much you're fueling via calorie consumption rather than like what the actual micronutrient density is to like the food. And something that really irritates me are these like coaches online that say calories determine your weight, macros determine your body composition, and then micros determine how you feel. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't even know what that means. Like you have
Right.
zero clue what that even means. You're just saying it because it sounds good to parrot that. Because if we were truly honest, right, everyone that follows like a macro or a calorie type of, diet. So there's a couple of things here. Okay. I'm going to overwhelm you for a second here. So like,
Okay, go for it.
so just try to bear with me. So many, like, I agree, calories in versus calories out. You can't beat the law of thermodynamics, right? But I think that the thing is that people are so dysfunctional, like metabolically so dysfunctional. There's no reason that, like, so for example, my fiance Heather, I've walked her back up to eating 2,400 calories. She's lost 4 pounds, right? She was chronically under eating for a long time. But we're exposed to so many environmental toxins every single day, things in our environment, things in our daily life, our stresses, things of that nature, that metabolically we are freaking sick, dude. And like, I think that some people who are like, I eat a micronutrient dense diet. I'm like, okay, yeah, sweet. However, you only eat like 2,500 calories as a grown man, which is like probably not ideal. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why you do that is because you can't control your body composition pushing past that. So realistically, your health marker, like you probably are at 60% when you're 100%, you've never felt before, but you think your 60% is your 100%. And so like I've tried to have this conversation. I recently got more into like reading Ray Peat's work. Do you know Ray Peat?
I don't.
You mentioned something on your Instagram a little bit ago about bioenergetics. And so Ray Peat, I think, was that you? Bioenergetics?
Maybe.
Maybe. Anyway, Ray Peat is like the guy who started the bioenergetics like movement. So
Okay.
eating for metabolism, which is like the crux of all health, right? Metabolism, it's not just, it's not just an indication of like your body composition. It's how everything in your body works, how your body produces ATP, things of that nature. You know that, but
Right.
just for the viewer. And so he's the guy who kind of like made it like more mainstream to eat like white bell mushrooms because they like get rid of endotoxin in the gut, or carrots because it helps with thyroid function. There's a specific like type of bacteria from carrots that do that, and
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature. So what are your thoughts on all that?
I mean, yeah, for sure. Like, we're just overrun with toxins. I mean, even if you're a crunchy hippie, unless you can completely live off the grid, and even then
Mhm.
your air probably sucks unless you're way deep in the forest. Like,
Right.
we're just surrounded by so many toxins. It's incredible. So that plays such a big strain on our body, specifically our liver. So then when you talk about calories in versus calories out, like, it definitely, in my opinion, matters what those calories are made of. Like,
Yeah.
200 calories from a donut is not the same as 200 calories from a grass-fed beef steak.
Mm-hmm.
And your body's going to notice that because your body's going to have to put in a lot more resources to process that donut and versus the steak. And then it's also not getting the nutrients like it does from the steak for the donut. So
Right.
what we're eating, I mean, sure, yes, you need to be in a caloric deficit to lose weight, but you also need to eat the right things or you're stressing your body out even more. And that's one of the biggest conversations in the short time I've had my own business right now. almost every single person, we are talking about supporting your liver for that detoxing, and then blood sugar. Like,
Yeah.
whew, and that's where I'm realizing, like, why has your primary doctor not talked to you about this? Like, blood sugar regulation is one of the most important things for all of our health systems, but
Yeah.
especially like hormones, guts, liver, because every single time your blood sugar spikes and then it drops, it's going to pump cortisol because that's a stress reaction.
Mhm.
So I've had to have a lot of talks about what controls blood sugar, and what helps control it are those quality proteins and fat sources. So yes, what those calories are made up of like truly does matter from a blood sugar standpoint too. So yeah, I get that you need to eat less calories if you're on that losing weight track, but I'm totally out of the mindset of like the if it fits your macro stage of life that I used to be at, which is
Yeah.
so funny because I look back when I thought I was like my healthiest with like a six pack. We were cutting weight, you were training me powerlifting, all the things. And I'm like, wow, I really wasn't healthy. Like, sure, maybe I
Yeah.
like looked great, but I was doing like if it fit your macros. And I thought I was eating clean because I know that like eating whole foods is I'm gonna get more of them than if I pick an ice cream sandwich. But then I was like trying to cram in more foods by getting like the low fat junk.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
which
Yeah.
like
It's
has
diet
totally
culture.
screwed women, especially the whole low fat thing just
Yeah.
totally screwed us over. So yeah, I mean, I totally think what you're putting in your body matters more than the calories.
Dude, yeah, and that's actually I think the new diet culture is if it fits your macros. That's where like, you know how yo-yo dieting used to be the thing, or like low fat, keto, whatever. I actually think that if it fits your macros is the new diet culture, and it's doing way more like damage than we ever would have thought, because people are just not eating nutrient dense stuff. They're like, yes, they're hitting their macros, but again, and this is why I might take a different approach to this than you do, so you can let me know. I'm actually of the thought that like I know in like right now what's really popular in like the natural space is not being on supplements forever, or like only using them acutely, right? That's kind of like the
Sure.
thing that's happening right now. Me personally, I'm like, I don't think that that logically follows like kind of the position that a lot of us take. If we think about like, there's a lot of environmental toxins. You could be exposed to mold, which a lot more people seem to be exposed to. I think it's a little bit of fear mongering. I went through mold toxicity and it really sucks, but I think it's more fear mongering than it like is prevalent. Um, and then like the air, the food, the soil, all these things. I'm actually of the like mindset that there are supplements that you should be taking like irregardless of what position you are in life, because there's just some nutrients that we are not getting enough of unless you're choosing to eat 4 pounds of bison a day or something, right?
Right.
Like you won't get enough methylated B12 period from your diet to like
Mhm.
function properly and to like methylate properly, right? Like to support those pathways. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, yes, I don't think people need to be on like a ton of supplements their whole
Yeah.
life, but I always tell people, and I rarely will like globally recommend like everyone needs to be on XYZ because
Yeah.
everyone is so different. But I do tell each person, like, okay, I expect you to be on these two or three supplements probably forever, but right now it's going to seem like a lot. Maybe you're on 5, 6, 7 total because we're supporting this healing that's happening in your body. But as we heal that body system, we can pull back those other supplements. But yeah, I agree that it's pretty impossible to not need at least a couple of supplements because of our toxic environment
Yeah.
supporting our livers were never meant to process all the toxins that we're processing nowadays.
Dude.
So to support those appropriately, and then, I mean, you can reduce your supplement load even more if you're going to take extra measures into account. Like, I
Right.
know we've chatted about like coffee enemas. If you're going to go up that train, like that might be able to reduce some of those supplements that you maybe would have had to take forever because your liver's now functioning a lot better than it was before you did that. So
Yeah.
it's super individualized, but yeah, I would say for the most part, majority of Americans, if not all, we probably have at least one or two supplements that we need to be on daily. I take supplements that I know I'll be on for the rest of my life.
Yeah, one for me that comes to mind is phosphatidylcholine. That's like
Okay.
one that I think is just like for everyone trying to support liver motility, function, things of that nature. Like PC, I think, is the one that I'm like, everyone should take. Hard stop. Do not take that. And every person that I've like in clinic, we test, right? We test everybody. It's like, no, this actually is probably what you should be taking, along with like glutathione. Glutathione sometimes is like for me, you know, like I don't know if like there's the sulfur component to glutathione, and then it's like, should they do injectable because liposomal is really not all that great, you know? But like you said, the coffee enema, which I haven't made up my mind yet.
Do it.
Feels
You
a little
won't
gay.
regret it.
Feels a little gay. I have to just say it.
Hey, Brandon just did one.
He did?
He did.
Oh, okay, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. I wanna talk to you about Lyme, because Bill Gates has been putting ticks in farms everywhere. So what's really interesting to me about Lyme, and maybe this is just because I've been in the holistic wellness thing for like 12 years, since I was like 20 years old, right? I feel like Lyme's really not that big of a deal.
Okay, so yes and no. Like it definitely, well, they're marketing it as a much bigger deal now because they're also trying to get a Lyme vaccine out there. So
I like how you said marketing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Lyme has been around for like a long time now. The prevalence has increased, and I will not comment on my conspiracy theories why, but it has. And I don't think it's just because we have better testing, because actually our Lyme testing sucks.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's PCR,
totally
right?
Not accurate. And this is an area where Western medicine and natural medicine totally disagree on. So Western's take on Lyme is that it's a bacteria that gets in you. So they do the harsh antibiotic treatment, which I don't disagree. Sometimes that harsh antibiotic treatment, if you caught it early, is really helpful. And then you got to support the body appropriately because you just killed all the good bacteria in you too.
Right.
But natural medicine, we recognize Lyme as a parasite because it is. So the tricky part of it is that.
Wait, what do you mean? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. How do you want me to elaborate more? It is a parasite. Like when you get bit by a tick, the parasite comes in you. You have
what I mean is like,
spirochete parasite.
Okay, because people have this idea of parasites, right? Like where it's like this little worm type thing. And so I think just like clearing that up for people would be helpful, because I also think that parasites is another thing that's like kind of blown out of proportion a little bit.
We can comment on that one next, but it's called a spirochete. I was going to say worm parasite, but yes, there's different kinds of parasites, and they're not all like, I think people think of like a tapeworm, which is like a massive worm. That's few and far between. These are microscopic, can't be seen by the naked eye. But what's so tricky about them is that once they're in your body, they are able to change their outer surface proteins. So your body doesn't recognize them. So when your body's not recognizing them, they're not making antibodies and fighting it off. Yet these parasites are going in and wreaking havoc on your system. And then they're really good at hiding. So even if you find it early, sometimes the antibiotics don't actually kill it because they're really good at hiding in your tissues. And if you don't find it early, that's where you can get all these slew of symptoms and side effects, typically not from the spirochete itself, but because of opportunistic and co-infections that come with it. So over 50% of people that have diagnosed Lyme have a co-infection that comes with it, other parasites and bacteria that also came with the spirochete with the tick bite. So those cause a lot of symptoms. And then a ton of people get opportunistic infections because those parasites are in you. They're changing your terrain. Then you get things like candida and heavy metal overgrowth, other parasite overgrowth. You just get toxic buildup because your body's just working overtime. So that is where like the natural health side of things leans towards, is that parasite route. So we are supporting getting that parasite out and then healing those body systems that it wreaked havoc on.
So what are like some of the, I guess, tellers of like that somebody may have Lyme? Because I do so I've worked with people that have POTS syndrome for a long time, for like 5 years. Right. And those people specifically, I've seen different cases where I'm like, hey, I think that you should go get tested, from a naturopath for like, whatever. And then Lyme does pop up. And
Mhm.
they're like, I was completely unaware of like what Lyme even was in the first place. So what are the kind of indications that you think somebody may have undiagnosed Lyme?
There's so many, so this is hard. But I mean, some of the most common are like your joint pain, joint pain, your fatigue, chronic
Mhm.
headaches, getting sick all of the time, especially if you have like a cyclical nature to that, like joint pain, like every 3 months or something like that. That those are big indicators. But if you're just like getting sick all the time or just feeling fatigued and exhausted, and you've tried all the different things that could be Lyme, also, they're finding in studies that things like POTS, dysautonomia, MS, Parkinson's are all people that also have Lyme in them.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so there's so many different things you can look at to tell if you have chronic Lyme.
Mhm.
And it's just so different for every person. That's also why it makes it so, so incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But it's not something where, I mean, you're going to have to find a natural person to service that because again Western medicine doesn't approach Lyme in that way, and they don't acknowledge the co-infections of it. They think if someone is sick after getting the antibiotic dose, it's just a symptom of being on antibiotics,
Right.
and they call it a day.
Basically like die off if you're like doing,
Essentially,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, those die-off symptoms, dude. It's crazy that they, like, look at that and they're just like, "Yeah, it's just, it is what it is. It's whatever. It'll go away."
Yeah, and then it never goes away.
Exactly, yeah. With how, like, how bad Lyme testing actually is, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's PCR, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, from COVID, we should all know by now how bad PCR is just in general for diagnostics, right? But how would you test somebody? So
Um,
I did a GI map recently
okay.
and an organic acid test. Thankfully, I came up negative for any sort of Lyme. I did have H. pylori, and a little bit of Candida, which is interesting. But yeah, how would you find it out?
Um, Honestly, we do a lot of just a symptom list is one of the
Okay.
biggest things. I'm also working on getting a more significant training in like muscle response testing, applied kinesiology. That's a good
Mm,
way too. That's a little woo woo for some people, but I have seen people do it and it's like spot on accurate.
yeah.
But honestly, like if someone were to come in my clinic today, we would be going mostly off of a symptom list right
Okay.
now,
What are some of the movers that you're using like right away for Lyme?
like the supplements.
Yeah. I know
I
it's gonna be different from person to person.
Yeah, there's a homeopathic line that I like to use called Desbio,
Yep.
and they have a whole, they call them series symptom kits.
Okay.
So they have one specifically for Lyme and then all their different co-infections. And that you can pull up off of like symptoms list to kind of tease out like, is it the Lyme? Is it this co-infection or is it this co-infection? And then we can start those protocols from there.
Cool. Yeah, I think that, man, I remember hearing about Lyme for the first time when I was like 22 years old. Maybe that was like the first time I probably was like exposed to someone who had it or something, or maybe the naturopath that I was working with at the time wanted to test me for it. I don't exactly remember. But then like going through the years, as I followed more people like Dr. Abram Hoffer and like all these like just, out there doctors basically, right? The people that are fringe, that it seemed like Lyme was actually pretty manageable. And now it's just like, and I think that kind of how you said from the beginning, how they're marketing it to like make it seem way less manageable than it is. It seems like everyone is just so scared like of the ticks and going out in nature or whatever. And to a degree, I'm a little bit more on like edge. I'm like, all right, we're gonna make sure we spray before we go. We got our like lemon oil and stuff like that we spray. But like the fact, what I think is actually more detrimental and more dangerous, tell me if you agree or not, is the state that people are putting their nervous system in.
Yeah, the
Like
stress.
you're preparing for illness, which is
Yes.
like will get you sick without getting a tick bite. And that's something that I've kind of like been learning more about recently too, is like nervous system regulation and how to sparse out like, is it nervous system related or is it an actual like real infection. I guess both are real, but you get what I'm
Right.
saying.
Well, yeah, and they can be so intertwined. And that's one
Yeah.
thing where I love the homeopathics because they address emotions too, right? And
Yeah.
this was the hardest thing for me to wrap my brain around when I got into natural health. I know that emotions play a role in your health. Like I've seen that even, but I like always was thinking more like the significant trauma because I've worked with kids with trauma and I've seen how it impacts them. But I've really learned how even like day-to-day emotions and stress especially like they really impact your health. So homeopathics are great because they address that emotional side of things too. But yes, exactly, there's such a fear response into having a tick on you, getting a tick bite, that if you got a tick bite, your stress response right now is going to send you through the roof, which is going to make healing a little bit harder than if you were just calm, cleaned it off like you're supposed to, and went on with your life.
No, totally. And I think that the whole stress is like a really interesting conversation. Maybe we should do another podcast more about that, like nervous system stuff, because stress is a really interesting conversation. Because something that I tell like my POTS people that I coach is that they're like, life doesn't seem stressful. I don't understand why it seems like my nervous system is fried or whatever. I'm like, well, I think the majority of the population looks at trauma as like the stress response or where you're getting a stress response from. And they don't understand that like stress or trauma doesn't necessarily stack up as like things that stand out all the time, right? Like
Right.
it's not like you didn't have to get into an accident or your house didn't have to collapse on you from a tornado in order to experience like significant stress or trauma. Like sometimes it's these little things that add up. Maybe you have a dad who threw away your Wii or your Switch or whatever when you were 8 years old. Maybe you have a toxically masculine fiance that won't do the dishes as often as you get what I'm saying. Like I'm
I
making
get
jokes,
it, yeah.
obviously, but and people don't recognize that like little things like that actually add up over time. And when you don't address it, it becomes way bigger.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then even things when you add in like our screen and phone use, like
Yep.
people are like, "Oh, I'm not stressed." Well, if your screen time says you're on your phone for 6 hours a day, then you are. You're stressing yourself out just from that alone. And if you're eating 2 meals a day, there's another stressor. Like you're stressing your body out. And there's just so much beyond like your classic signs of stress.
Yeah, like you said, like the blood sugar regulation from earlier, right? Like if you're not like putting some sort of input in your body semi-frequently, that's a stress, like you're gonna have stress response. Maybe your blood sugar spikes super high because of that, and then your body's like, what the fuck? And you don't necessarily like know that that's what's happening,
Yep.
right? But
And
yeah,
your
totally.
cortisol dumping.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
agree with you. I agree.
Yeah, we could do a whole day worth on stress.
Yeah, we could for sure. We should do another one though, for sure. Is there anything that you want to leave people with on this podcast as we like kind of have to round it out?
I think just one other thing touching on like differences between Western and natural
Yep.
healing that I've learned is Western medicine really focuses a lot on like the germ theory. Have you heard this? Like germ versus terrain?
Oh, dude, don't get me started. This is
No,
a
you've heard
rabbit
it.
hole this is a rabbit hole, like the virus stuff too, virology. I have gone so deep recently on
So
this.
deep down the rabbit holes. Well, I'll make it like pretty broad in general for everyone. So
Yeah,
like
you do it.
germ theory looks at the germs are the issue, right?
Mhm.
So that's what Western medicine is trying to do. They're trying to control the germs with vaccines against the germs, all these different things against the germs. Where natural health, we're really looking at terrain, the terrain theory, your body is doing and what supports your body has, so that if you get in contact with the germ, if you have a strong terrain, it can overcome the germ like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And I mean, that mindset just logically makes a lot more sense to me. I
Yeah.
don't know how it doesn't make more sense to the mass crowds. But that's really like the biggest difference you see and why Western medicine is how it is compared to natural medicine.
Totally.
And that's also why, germ theory, if that were accurate, then everyone should interact pretty much the same way when they're interacting with the same germs. And that's just not the
Yeah.
case. Like if I get a germ, I'm going to have a completely different interaction than someone that eats McDonald's 7 days a week and lives off of caffeine,
Yeah.
because their terrain is totally different. So that's the biggest thing there. And the last thing to note on is that symptoms are signs that something is not going right. They're not just things to be covered up. So
Yes.
actually covering up your symptoms is actually something you don't want to do because it helps us, it makes it harder for us to figure out what body system is sending those symptoms for healing. So
Yes.
listen to your body, find the root cause and heal from there, because your God made your body to do like amazing things and to heal itself, and it truly can.
100%. And a symptom can sometimes be a diagnostic. So like
Mm-hmm.
something that they diagnose you with could be a symptom of something wrong with your biology.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool, Ashley. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. This was
Yeah,
fun.
thanks
We
for
should do
having me.
another one soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Awesome, dude. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Is it working? Is it ending? There we go. All right, dude. Cool.